Okay guys, welcome back to the channel, and of course if you're watching this on release day, it is Necron Day. Please go and check out all the other Necron videos. Of course there is the army overview, the battle report and the terrain tutorial. So everything's going to be available. But today we are showing you how I paint my colour scheme of Necrons, known as the Cardanesh Dynasty, and I'm glad I've done my own scheme because now I can play all the others. So this is the new Cryptek with the Cryptek cloak from Forgebane, and as you can see I have left them in two separate parts because it's just going to be easier to paint up like this. Of course I have primed black. I've missed a little bit in the centre there, but that's not so bad. So yeah, I'm going to paint this model up for you, and I apply all the same things to the rest of the entire army, so I hope you enjoy it. There is a very easy way to paint this up. I will use a lot of airbrushing, and you know, my whole motto with painting is something that's quick but effective. You know, just have a look at the Tau if you saw the tutorials for them. So we're going to start off, of course it's base black, we're going to use Gunmetal by Vallejo Gamer. And of course we're going to do this with the airbrush, and what I'm going to do first of all is spray it mostly from the side and the top down, leaving the underside a little bit black. This is quite a dark metal colour though, so if it does go underneath it's not so bad, but it's all about getting that zenithal highlight on there. Okay, so now that the gunmetal has dried, I'm using just standard silver, and I'm just going to do top-down spray with this one, obviously to make sure that we get that nice highlight going on. And you can see there, the silver is very, very bright. But you just want it to hit the tops of the model. Like that. So it's still dark underneath, and of course it gets brighter as you turn it over. So a lot easier to do, of course, with something like this where it's pretty flat. But especially on the sort of spine bit, not really doing any, and you can see underneath as well I haven't barely done any under there. But that is it for the silver, but the spider is clinging to my hand. There we go guys, so now that's dry we're gonna start and add some of the details. Now some of the bits that I do are a little bit awkward to get right, but it does pay off taking your time just a little bit. So the main, or rather the base colour that we're going to do first is Baneblade Brown, and what that is for all of the lines and cracks in between all of the little gaps. So you'll notice on his tabard here, sort of the digitalisation basically there, and on this we'll be doing the pieces between the spider. So with this bit, it's fine if you go out the lines, but just make sure that you get loads and loads of paint in the gaps. Baneblade Brown is unfortunately a layer paint, not a base paint. So you do unfortunately have to put a reasonable coat on, but just make sure that it's thin enough that it doesn't clog the details up, but that it's also thick enough that it covers as well. Also, it does help giving it a coat of this when we move on to the next colour. It just means that you're given less coats over the silver and the black. So I think the only other bit is the head. So some details there. And again, don't be frightened to get right under the eye socket and everything there as well. And for good measure, it looks as though there is a few little bits on his shoulders and in that head mask as well. Yeah, there's a couple of bits there on the shoulder, so just make sure that we get those filled in. And luckily that's pretty much all you need for him. And then on here, just painting the lines in there. And again, the same on the face here. Make sure you're getting right into the cracks. And with all of the legs as well, I also get right into the cracks on the legs, because the legs are going to be painted the next colour or shade up. And then with this piece here as well, you'll notice if you've seen any of my vehicles that the pieces in between are also painted. Now I have tried this, doing it the other way by painting it with the next shade up, which is Rakarth Flesh, and then going back and filling the Baneblade Brown in afterwards. Doesn't quite work the same, unfortunately. I can't get it to work. So with this, because this piece is quite black, I am literally going to cover the whole of it with Baneblade Brown. It just makes sure that you get all of the bits done, and it gives it a first coat, of course, ready to cover it with the Rakarth Flesh. Okay guys, so now that that's dry, the next stage is Rakarth Flesh. And what we're going to do is basically paint all of the flat surfaces, trying to avoid the little recesses of Baneblade Brown that we've just painted over. So the big flat bits you can get away with pretty easily, like this. Now even though it is a base colour and it goes on quite well, you probably still need 2 coats of this. So obviously let the first coat dry and go back and revisit it for the second coat. So I'm not going to paint the whole model on camera, because my setup is a little awkward to paint around the camera, but I'll show you basically what to do. So obviously what I've done there is just paint that flat panel, and I'll do the same on these bits here. But then what you also want to do, for example, is on the tabard here, you want to paint the raised bits but not in the recesses. So what I do is I tend to paint most of the flat surface like this, and then when your paint is nearly dry on your brush, just kind of drag it over like that, and as long as you go over it light, you can see there that it actually leaves the recess brown. So it's almost like a heavy dry brush, but it kind of colours it in quite well. And you can see there especially, obviously it's left it brown. Now obviously that is going to need another coat, But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same with the head, and then the same on this bit here, obviously avoiding the 2 crevices. So I'll finish the Cryptek off camera, but I'll basically show you here. Because this bit is quite flat, it's a lot easier to do on this bit. And there you go, so I'll do that on all of them. I'm also of course going to do it on the legs. Okay guys, so here we go. This is after 2 coats now, and you can see it is lovely and flat, and you can still see the Baneblade brown in there of course as well. So yeah, and believe it or not, we're not actually that far off being done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use Balthazar Gold to paint in a few bits and pieces and just add some more detail. So this is Balthazar Gold. It's a base gold. Very thick paint, but it goes on very beautifully. So I don't put a lot of gold on. I do it literally to break the silver up. So yeah, just a little bit here and there. So what I do is I do paint the crest on the chest. And I will be painting a few bits and pieces on the Staff of Light as well. So again with this, it's okay to go over a little bit on the edges of the Staff of Light. Because we're going to be going over that with a blue in a short while. And I think I'll paint these gold again just to add a little bit of extra detail and break things up a little bit. There we go. And then on this, I've decided I am going to paint all of this gold. So this is probably the biggest piece of gold that I'm going to do on anything in my army. A lot of the other characters I did do it with the Rakarth flesh, but I don't know, it didn't feel quite right. So I'm going to give this guy a go with the gold. The reason I love using Balthazar Gold as the base is because it's still quite kind of dark. It's a very deep gold as opposed to Retributor Armor, which is a very bright, intense gold that you really want to stand out and pop. I want this to look old. Okay guys, so there's the gold done. I quite like it. But what we're going to do now is just highlight the gold up and dull it down a little bit, highlight and dull it down. I speak English. Is wash it with Agrax, in particular on here, because, you know, it's a bit flat. So Agrax is great on top of this gold because it just is tarnish the right word? Tarnishes the gold. It warms it up a little as well. There we go, so we'll do the same on the Cryptek himself. Just a small little run of Agrax on there because we don't want to get that on the there we go, and I forgot to paint the other side of that. So I'll get that one touched up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to highlight it with Gainer's Gold. So as you can see here, the Agrax Earthshade has toned it down very, very nicely, but also made it quite a bit warmer as well. So all I'm going to do is I'm literally going to dry brush it now with Gainer's Gold, just to make it a little bit brighter again. But the way Gainer's Gold works is, I don't even know how to describe it. It just kind of highlights it but doesn't take away the dullness. It just kind of polishes the edges again. Just makes it stand out and be that little bit brighter, but still quite sort of tarnished and dulled down, but just gives it that little bit of shine. Okay, so once that's done, we're then gonna paint in the base color for the blue. We are gonna airbrush the blue eventually, but I just want the base color in there to make sure that everything gets covered. And what we're going to use is it used to be called Enchanted Blue. It's now Calidor Sky, and I love this colour. It's what I use on my towel quite a lot. But what we're going to do with this is we're basically going to paint all of the orbs. Calidor Sky. Now obviously it is quite dark and rich, and you'll notice it is quite a lot darker than what you normally see on my Necrons, and the reason obviously for that is the airbrushing. Okay guys, so the next step is to do all the edge highlighting on all of this using Pallid Witch Flesh. Now this bit does get very, very tedious, and this is the reason I haven't painted two ghost arcs, because this is painstaking for the highlighting. So what I do is I literally use a small brush. This is a small layer, and I go around every single edge with Pallid Witch Flesh. Now it is very painstakingly slow, and this is the hardest bit of painting the colour scheme that I use for my Necrons. And there's my computer needing an update. So yeah, I literally paint either side of the Baneblade brown. Recesses. Now I'm going to do this on all of the Rakarth flesh. So this bit's going to take some time, so I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, and we'll come back very shortly. Okay guys, so here we go. I've done all the white highlights right on all the edges. I've even done around the head. On the gold symbols here, you can see I've painted the Necron symbols, and all the way on the tabard here as well, and on the back right the way around. Like I said, it's very tedious, it's very awkward, it's the least enjoyable part of my Necrons, and probably the reason I haven't got as much painted. But next up though is we're going to touch up all the blues with the airbrush, and we're going to use magic blue. I'm just going to stick my glove on because I didn't put it on before I pressed record. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start doing OSL, or object source lighting. Just making sure it's working. And what we're doing is with magic blue, I'm going to paint about 3/4 of the blue bits that you see here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully airbrush the pipes and the orb, and of course his eye. We are going to have a little bit of overspray, just enough to make it look like it's glowing. So you have to be very careful when you do this, but a little bit of overspray is what you're looking for. There you go, and you can see just on his eye how the blue has just gone over onto the headlight, or onto his head, and you can see just around the chest plate there as well, it's just gone a little bit glowy. So we'll continue that trend on with the cloak. And there we go, clean your airbrush out and we'll get ready for the next colour. Okay guys, so once that is dry, we're going to touch up the edges using Vallejo Gamer Electric Blue. So all we're going to do is basically everything that we've just done with Magic Blue, but a tiny bit smaller. So all we're going to do here, for example, is just the centre of the eye. And same in the middle. And then in the center here, we're just going to go for the center of the orb and the center of the pipes as well, just to give that little bit of a whitish or much lighter glow. And then finally, all I've done is I've added a little bit of white into the electric blue mix, and we're just going to highlight even less, so literally the very tip of the staff, the very center of the orbs and the pipes as well. And there you go guys, he's finished, so we'll glue him together and get him stuck down on his base. Okay guys, so here we go. I've glued the two parts together and of course I've stuck him on his base, and I love this model now that he's together and we can see him properly. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and it's been super quick getting it done. But we're not finished, we're going to base him as well. So what I've got here is some sharp sand from the Builder's Merchant. Cost me £1.20 for a giant bag, and you can see here there's some large bits, there's some finer bits and everything in as well. This is just in a small tub that I keep in the house, the rest of it I keep in the shed. So all we're going to do is, with some PVA glue, is we're going to basically paint the top of the base so that we can add the sand onto it. Now don't be frightened to go a little bit on the actual model part that's touching the base. It just means that you can kind of have the sand up the side of it meeting the model. It helps make it look like it's actually kind of, you know, growing out of the ground a little bit as well. So plenty of PVA glue. There we go. And all we're going to do is dip them in. Okay, maybe I'll break them. Give it a bit of a shake. And then just wipe the edges. There we go. So we'll let that set and we'll come back in a few moments. Okay guys, so here we go, the sand is now dried, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the base red. And I'm just literally going to use this cheap red acrylic paint from B&M Bargains, which was like £1. So just literally going to paint all of the sand red. Easy as that. A few parts of it are blended over to the blue crystals there, which I did with the airbrush. But yeah, basically going to paint the whole lot red. Right, here we go guys, we're almost done. Not long left to go now, and what we're going to do is we're going to wash that red with some Agrax Earthshade. There we go, nice and thick with the wash, and just apply it all over the red base. And we're almost done. We've got 2 things left to do. Okay guys, so we're almost done with the Cryptek. All we've got to do now is add a very light dry brush of Screaming Skull over the sand, and that is almost it. That easy. But that is how I do the desert bases for the Necrons, is literally red acrylic paint, Agrax Earthshade, and then a dry brush of bleach bone. So just very, very light. Screaming Skull, I say bleach bone, I mean Screaming Skull of course, over the top. And then all we're going to do is we're going to use some Army Painter grass, and the grass that I use, this is available at Games Workshop, this one as well. I'm not sure what the name is from GW, but this is the one that I use from Army Painter, and it's just a kind of Highland tuft. And all I'm going to do is glue 1 or 2 pieces of this around the base. So we'll probably put a piece here near the back and a piece here near the front. And then it's just a case of literally pulling it off and sticking it down like that. There we go. So all we'll do next is we'll rim the base in a Baden black, and that'll pretty much finish the model off. So get your Baden black, and I'm going to be using a medium layer brush here, and nice and neatly just rim the edge of the base. Okay guys, so before we finish off entirely, we've got one more step to go, and it is weathering powder. And what you want is a nice soft makeup brush like this one. And what I'm going to be using is Vallejo burnt sienna weathering powder, and all we're going to be doing is basically applying rust around the joints and so forth. So get some on your brush like this, just tap any excess off, and then start rubbing it into the joints and so forth. Now it is quite messy, it will go all over the place, but that's kind of what you want, especially for you know, the Cryptek. You want the joints to be quite rustic and everything as well. Don't be frightened to get some around the edges here as well, just to blend it in. And then just blow the excess off. You can see here you've got quite a bit around here, you've got some around here, you've got some around his feet and around here as well, and a little bit around here, and you can see just nicely you've got some on the elbow joint there as well. It just nicely blends it in with the base. Don't be frightened to rub a little bit into the base as well, and just helps add the extra effect and tie the model to the base entirely. And there you go. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial. I hope it's been insightful. I hope you've liked the rest of the Necron videos that have gone up. So thank you very much for watching. Please check out the rest of the channel, and we will see you again very soon.